Hello guys. This is still live, but in like a couple of minutes we're gonna get to the delay. We're gonna scroll back for 10 minutes. So let me actually get some chargers in so I'm ready. Okay, this is charging. I didn't take a banana with me. No. No. Yo, what was that? Why did everything just refresh? That was weird. What happened? That's weird. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna go to this other place where I leave my laptop, so I will be right back. If I can get out of here. Let's see what we have here. And here. Your Kostya was here as well, but now this is me. Let me check the internet. Actually, or maybe not. Okay, we'll see. For now, the internet is fine. But I'm wondering if I should turn off the Wi-Fi. But okay, let's first have a look here. Hello guys. This is still live, but in like a couple of minutes we're gonna get to the delay. We're gonna scroll back for 10 minutes. So let me actually get some chargers in so I'm ready. Okay, this is charging. I didn't take a banana with me. No. No. Yo, what was that? Why did everything just refresh? Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna go to this other place where I leave my laptop. So I will be right back. I can get out of here. Let's see what we have here.
Secondo te posso salire ora? Posso salire ora? Cosa? Adesso sì. Ok, adesso. Però non puoi salire, vediamo per me. Dopo. Devi stare un po'. No, dopo sì, sì. Massimo. Massimo di prossima mattina. Non devi niente da dire. Ogni tanto si alza i cani, guardare come mossa fa.
siempre sin ningún dispositivo electrónico. No puede estar en el auditorio con dispositivos electrónicos. Good afternoon. I would like to remind you that players in this room must use the restroom located behind this stage. They may not leave the room without the arbiter's permission. The accompanying person may only be in the auditorium, but only without electronic device. Nada, mucha suerte
Hello, people. Hopefully there is enough viewers, because I can't see how many viewers we have. Yeah, hopefully I haven't been too late. But yeah, good evening. And I won't be here for long, because I have to call my family, but I won't be here for family. Yeah, I will stay here for like an hour or so. That's it. Let's see. This game, this Najdorf, that saying right now on the board. I think the board is working properly, from what I saw. Okay, we do have the stream going like dying and then restarting and all that, but yeah. All right. So yeah, we are black against CM Ivo Rodriguez Diaz, who, by the way, I was wondering how he is on 2 out of 3, and apparently his opponent didn't show up round 1, and then he made 2 draws. So this guy is undefeated so far, and today we're hoping that Anna makes him lose. So this guy is undefeated so far, and today we're hoping that Anna makes him lose his first game, I guess. And yeah, so far we've had an not named after Michael Adams. That's what I thought, but I searched it up on Wikipedia, and it's actually named after a guy in the 1950s or so named Weaver Adams, who apparently played this and claimed that e4 is a win for white, and yeah. I suppose that ace-3 against the knight is a win for white as well. Ace-3 against the knight is a pretty interesting variation. The idea is oftentimes you want to play g4 and bishop g2 and try and attack on the king side while developing your bishop to g2. Sometimes black plays b5, and it's very double-edged positions. However, our streamer chose the more like principled way of playing against h3 is with h5, preventing this g4 idea. Now that has the downside that the black king is going to be less safe if it castles kingside. However, our streamer is used to not castling too much, so yeah, as you can see, the king is still on the center, is quite safe even after move 15. We haven't castled. Yeah, I guess we had a prediction earlier, but with the openings that Anna plays, I don't think she's castling too much as black. Like the only chance that she would castle before move 10 as black, probably in some d4 opening, like some Slav Grunfeld or some, I don't even know, like maybe she's changed the d4 d5 openings. I don't know. But yeah, against e4 with a knight, often black doesn't really castle at all or delays it. Black can still legally castle here, but not sure that that would be the move of choice. Anyway, this position kind of resembles a Svesnikov actually. So after h3, e5. Now there are 2 ways of playing against h3 in the knight. There is the more solid setup with e6, which is called s7 in his structure, and in that you basically just develop your pieces and kind of like e6, bishop e7. There we might actually have seen black castling. And there is also the more kind of like more aggressive Svesnikov style setup with e5, which is kind of more the true knight approach. Like usually, at least when the knight was introduced to the chess world in the 60s and 70s and popularized, you played a6 to basically play e5 at some point. So that, positionally speaking, does make sense. It does create the hole on d5, but black hopes that they will generate enough piece activity to cover d5 with pieces like bishop e6, as I can see was played in the game. And okay, white does have a knight on d5, but as black you kind of hope to play around it, and the knight does look nice, but it doesn't really do all that much apart from looking nice. Like it doesn't really have any great targets. For instance, it can take the bishop on e7, but we could even gladly take with the king there, and we're perfectly safe. And if white tries to bring the second knight to d5, we can take that with the bishop, or we can even just ignore it again. Just go king back to f8 and yeah, just playing around the knight. And a key idea is this maneuver knight d7 to c5, which is also aiming against the knight on b3. So if this bishop becomes too dangerous in the future, then we can exchange it off. Where does black put the dark square bishop in this 7 in hand? Usually on b7. So usually you play b6, bishop b7 at some point. Yeah, basically. Yeah, that's. I mean, when you have a pawn on e6, you probably want to go the other way. So actually, if you look at Anna's game number 1, which was also against some 2000 from Portugal, I believe. No, it was 2000 from Serbia, that FM. She played a great 7 in hand game, so you can look at that, and I think she did put the bishop on b7. Oh, DSB. I'm sorry. Sorry. DSB. So yeah, usually on e7. Where else would you put it? I mean, you do have a pawn on d6 still. So yeah, you would put it on e7. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I'll remember to read that more precisely next time. Yeah, the bishop pretty much always goes to e7. Not g7. Not really, no. Usually you don't want to play e6 and g6 in a Sicilian. Usually that leaves f6 very weak. So if you do want to play g6 bishop g7, there is this thing called the Dragendorf, but I'm not sure it works against h3. Pretty sure it doesn't work against h3, but it does work against, like, say, more conventional Najdorf move orders like bishop e3. There are some ideas with g6 bishop g7, but I don't think you move the e-pawn in those. Like, you do keep the e-pawn on e7, and you have like kind of a dragon style setup with d6 g6 and bishop g7. Anyway, what is going on here? So it is white to move. White is quite a bit up on time. Let's see where all this time has spent. So Anna spent 11 minutes on move 8. I suppose she hadn't seen bishop g5 against h5. To be fair, I have actually prepared this line for white, and I think I did look at that. I think I've actually looked at that exact line as white. Like, I was playing some opponent who only played Najdorf, so I was like, yeah, let's play the open Sicilian this time and see what he does against h3. He ended up playing 7th move b5, which is a different variation. But I think I did look at that. In any case, it does seem that she has spent quite a bit of time. But the position looks decent. As I said earlier, white does have a knight on d5, but we're kind of playing around that knight. The question is now, what is our next move? How to get the rook on h8 into the game, right? And there is a nice idea here, which I think I have seen before in a similar type of position, which is to make like a rook lift, rook h6, rook g6. Notice that white does not have a dark squared bishop, so there is no drawback to lining out the queen with the rook on g5 and h6. And yeah, so rook h6 might be the idea, because we do want to get that h rook into the game. Why not rook a1? That's a good question. I don't think it matters that much, because I don't think the rook on f1 would be that useful on f1 and e1. And I think the reason white has kept the rook on a1 is because he anticipates some kind of knight takes b3, a takes b3, and the a file opening up. So if you didn't have a rook on a1, then black could consider to play like b5 or knight x b3 followed by b5. With a rook on a1, you kind of discourage that because if the knight x on b3, 8x b3, then the rook would be attacking the pawn on a6. So that's my guess. Castling bad here. I wouldn't castle with a pawn on h5, to be honest. Yeah, also that pawn is hanging, so after castling, there is knight e7 check, queen takes e7, queen takes h5. Many thanks to the engine for pointing that out, because I'm still kind of, yeah, not that awake. But yeah, castling doesn't work tactically, but also you don't really... do you want to castle? I guess at some point we could castle, like if our bishop was on d8, for instance. But our king is going to be pretty safe on f8, I think. Like, again, white doesn't have a dark squared bishop. Which means that the dark squares are pretty safe. Like, we can put the king on f8, we can even put the king on g7 at some point. And white can't really get to the king. What white can get to is that d6 pawn, which we have to be careful about. That is pretty much black's like only weakness in this game. Yeah, on the other hand, black has the bishop pair. Yeah. Here, I think Anna wants eventually the position to open up at some point. Like some pawn break, like f5 or d5, and the two bishops to kind of break free. But this is not, this is quite far away for now. Yeah, no, king f8 is fine, no? I don't know what flashbacks. Right, yesterday she did have a position with kind of undeveloped pieces and a king there, but it's quite different because the center is closed. So it's very important in chess. And Anna does play g6 here, which I guess prepares the king to come to g7, as we said. So it's very important to differentiate in chess between positions with an open center or a fluid center and positions with a closed center. Now, with a closed center, that means attacks are going to be much slower. For instance, white doesn't really have the flexibility to maneuver all his pieces to the king side and attack the king, which means that our king being uncastled isn't in such a dangerous position. So here, for instance, after knight takes e7, we can even take with the king. And because the center is closed, our king is pretty safe on the center. It's not like white is going to break up on the center and checkmate. However, the computer does say that g6 is a slight inaccuracy. It does recommend here for white, knight takes e7, king takes 7, bishop d5. So putting a bishop on d5 in order so that if black takes it with a bishop, then the knight is the final piece remaining, gives another check to the king, and then you do have like an unopposed knight on d5. I am a bit worried about this d6 pawn because the bishop on e7 defends it for now, but I think like in the endgame it's going to become a weakness. Like if we trade away, it's slightly better for white because of the d6 pawn. It's not winning because that's only one weakness, and that can be covered by potential rook from h8 coming to d8. The king comes to e7. So this is definitely holdable, but somehow I feel like black might have a hard time playing this endgame for a win. And this is something that happens in the Sveshnikov as well. Like when you have this structure, you always kind of have to be afraid of endgames against low-rated players, because sometimes there are these endgames that you know that they are holdable, but there aren't really many winning plans because white is kind of too solid. Again, white hasn't made any pawn moves, so white's only pawn moves are e4, which was his first move, and h3. This was like the novelty, but h3 is not really a weakening move. So there aren't any weaknesses in White's camp. That is the problem here, I think. Yeah, as Blob also agrees with me, I guess. Yeah, I did say that. I don't know if the stream actually crashed during that point. I said that the point of, yeah, I said that the point of rook fd1, not rook 81, is probably to keep the option of the a file opening, especially if black plays some b5, b4, so that knight xb3, knight xb3 would attack the pawn on a6. And I also said that the rook is not going to be any useful on f1 or e1 anyway. Yeah, I would say the position is pretty equal. But I guess, yeah, I mean, like between two equally rated players, I would say that, okay, could be a draw. High percentage of a draw. Not really draw is, but it's very equal position. Now, because Anna is slightly higher rated than her opponent, she would obviously play this for a win. But the thing is, I have a hard time seeing how will she play this for a win. I mean, we could just watch and learn, right? So, because I am interested to see like how does this play out, because I'm interested in the h3 knight in general. But let's see. It's good that their opponent is not like playing instantly. I mean, it's hard to come up also with a plan for white. Like, okay, we said that black had to play this for a win, but I don't think white also. I don't think white wants to trade everything. Otherwise, he would have done it already, right? But then it's hard. Like, how to continue? Because okay, d5 is an outpost. There are no other outposts. d6 also discourages white from playing something like knight e3, knight f5, which might have been a consideration. So for white, it's also hard to play this position. This bishop on b3 is kind of hindering white rather than helping. Because if that bishop wasn't there, then maybe some b4, a3, b4 might have been a possibility, or even like, I don't know, c4 ideas, c4, c5 or something. But this bishop is kind of clogging up the queen side. Like, white would really love for black to take on b3, so that he can get rid of that. You know, activate the rook somehow, maybe like rook a4, rook c4 afterwards. But black is not gonna take. Like, this knight on c5 is actually better for now than the bishop. Hello, Nori. Welcome. Yeah, the king could I think the king could go f8 g7. That is the idea. Basically, the idea is, as I said, like, white doesn't have a dark square bishop, so we put, like, we don't really care that much about weaknesses on dark squares. That's the point. Okay, he did take. All right, that was the best move, by the way. Let's see now if we will take with the king. If Anna takes with the king here, then I guess the mouse can resolve the prediction, because then castling is not legal anymore. So it could also take with the queen. I think it doesn't really matter. What matters is if black plays. Okay, so let's take with the queen, keeping the option of castling. Yeah, the good thing about the position with a closed center is this one is you don't really need to calculate that much. Like, there are not really many tactics in the position. So yeah, so what matters here is if white goes for bishop to d5, which is the best move. And that would be a really good move, because yeah, it would attack b7, threaten some b4 ideas. So black would have pretty much have to take, and then yeah, it's this kind of awkward endgame in which white is slightly better, and it's not really easy to see how black will win this. So yeah, bishop d5 is a really good move here for white. White might take on e6 as well. We could consider actually taking with pretty much all three options. Maybe not the pawn. Pawn looks kind of weird because g6 is going to be very weak. But we could take with the queen. We could take with the knight. I feel like the knight is probably the best option. And then try and get like a knight to d4. The problem is that white can just play c3 again. And once again, white is really, really solid there. However, none of this has happened. Because Mr. What's his name again? Evil has played queen e3. And for some reason, I don't see that on my stream, so let me refresh. But he has played queen e3, as I see on the board. Which means that we can take on b3. And I think, yeah, we could take on b3 now they're never any knight d5. Now that does trade a pair of pieces more. So, yeah, again, every traded piece is kind of moving us towards a draw. Like, especially like if we get like to a rook endgame or queen endgame. It's okay. This at least okay. This we can keep the betters in agony because the second best move is king f8 according to the engine, but the third best move is castles. So yeah, it doesn't really matter here if black castles or not, because the king is probably going to end up on g7 regardless. So it's either going to be king f8, king g7, rook d8, or it's going to be castles, king g7, rook d8. Both take 3 moves, so it's pretty much the same thing. Yeah. So the main question here for Anna is, does she want to take on b3 with the knight? Hopefully not with the bishop. That would not be a good idea. Ensign says king f8 is better than castle. It doesn't really matter. The difference is like 1/10 of a pawn. Should be equal. Should be the same. By the way, I'm drinking Maza. Wasn't Maza the company that sponsored our streamer at some point? I do believe so. And what I learned is Maza means enjoy in Hindi. That is what they said on the bowl that day. I didn't know it was an Indian company actually. But yeah, I'm drinking mango juice because my throat's quite dry, and I'll need to speak apparently for a while. Yeah, I just hope our streamer doesn't get into too much time trouble here. Like, because it's looking that way. It's move 18. We're down to 32 minutes. Yesterday, I would like to say that the game was decided kind of by her time travel. Like, she fought really, really well, but in the end, she couldn't like evaluate position properly, I guess, and she ended up this rook versus 2 bishops. Endgame was just not holdable, I would say. Like, it's really hard to hold. There was at some point, like, instead of this 96, he could have played bishop d3, and that led to an equal position after some moves. But yeah. Yesterday evening, I saw they had analysis stream. I did. Well, evening is a bit. Is victim to the Mandela effect. What's the Mandela effect? I've never heard of it. Yeah, I wouldn't call it evening. I mean, it was like 1 a.m. for me at least. Yeah, and I did see that Anna seemed kind of tired, let's say, and she just went to sleep at some point. What is the Mandela effect? Let's see. Okay, I'm not really getting any help. The Mandela effect is a phenomenon where many people collectively misremember events, historical facts, and pop culture. Oh. Okay, interesting. But yeah, I did see the analysis. Did they look at Anna's game at all? I didn't really hunt time to look. The brand name is Maza. The Hindi Urdu word for fun is Maza. First sort, second. Oh, maybe they didn't know how to spell then. Interesting. So just sat down and prep. Did this guy even have games in the database? Usually 2000s don't really have many games. Let's see. Let's fire up my Just Base Online. It's so good that I can fire up Just Base, even like Just Base Online, and the computer doesn't break. That is good. So Ivo Diaz, that's his name. Yeah, there we go. We have found him. Oh, he does play Title Tuesday a lot. Huh. Okay. See if he has any nighters. Bishop b2, Queen f3, Bishop e3. There is an h3 in 2018. That was his last h3. h3, g3. Okay, he has played h3 before in the database. I think only twice. Okay, so he actually has played this before, or against a GM, in fact. So he played the exact same position. Wow, bishop b3, knight c5. Did he play for castles? No, okay. So, I guess was queen g5. Okay, interesting. So until move 13, yes, she was writing a pattern post. Yeah, I didn't know that was public information, but since the mod said it, yeah. So I did get the ping, and then so she was wearing like this this headband, right? And I get the ping, and she was writing about the headband. It's like, oh, good. Now I know that the headband says because it wasn't visible on stream. But yeah. So yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, I was saying that this guy has played the exact same game up until move 13 of white against Grandmaster Gabor Nag from Hungary. But it was in 2018, so that was 7 years ago. But this guy had a higher rating than he has now. He was 2130. So yeah, the higher rating was 2130. This before. And the thing is, I'm not sure Anna looked at this game because it's 7 years old, and he also played a lot of things against the Nighterf. But I would, if I was a Nighterf player, I would look at all Nighterf games. So we should attribute this, how much it was, this 11 minutes spent with bishop e6. We should blame the other streamers for keeping her up late. She didn't have time to check this game out. But kudos to her for finding the actual good moves, I guess, because she did play exactly like the GM played. Let me check this game a little bit, because it does look very similar. Like, the GM also played g6. Wait a minute, does it transpose? No, it doesn't, because the opponent went for bishop g7 instead of bishop e7. But it is kind of similar. And in that game, the white player, Diaz Rodriguez Evo, played rook ad1. So I guess now he improved with rook fd1. Yeah, but it does look similar. Ah, but he blundered a tactic at some point. Wait, he straight up blundered the pawn, though. What? Oh. Oh, wow. That is... Okay, his pieces got really clumsy. He blundered the pawn. And then he was... Okay, yeah, the GM pretty much won from there. But okay, he has had this position before. I'm not sure if that is good. Thank you for the raid, just Amazon. Welcome, raiders. We are watching the OTB game of Anna-Maja against Ivo Rodriguez Diaz from Portugal. She's playing in Maia Open in Portugal. That is round 4. And she's in 2 out of 3. She's playing really well so far. And we hope that she can get to 3 out of 4 today. So, Jim Solver to predict moves. Do we think Black will play here? I think she will not take on b3 because she doesn't like trades. I think she will either play king f8 or short castle. That is my guess. Probably king f8 because she likes to move the king. That is my experience. Let's see if I'm correct. I predict king f8. But yeah, apparently White has had experience with that kind of structure, which is kind of scary. Especially when we have just 25 minutes. But okay, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, it looks normal. Not sure why she's thinking so much though. The problem is that if I think this is somewhere in the quotes. If Anna thinks like for longer than 10 minutes, she often moves a pawn. And I'm not sure there are any pawn moves here that are like g5. Maybe could be a thing, right, to play g5 here, but yeah. You see, as the pawns are now, they're pretty good, but if she starts pushing them, then the king will become exposed at some point. Quote pawn. Oh no. Yeah, so she has thoughts for some time, so I'm a bit curious to see what she will come up with here. Because, yeah, I don't think we want to push any pawns. Doesn't work, yeah. But let's see. You shouldn't get too low on time here, I think, also. Because, okay, the position is not very tactical right now, but there are a lot of moves to be made. And yeah. Although, okay, if it's an endgame, she can play that on low time. But the thing is, can she beat a 2000 on low time? Like, let's say it's an equal endgame. And the opponent has like 30 minutes and Anna has 1 minute. Who would you bet on? I'm not sure. Hope she will castle. Alright, the betters are still worried about their points. Do you think Anna can beat me in low time? It depends on the position. If it's an equal endgame and I have 30 minutes and she has 1 minute, I think I have better chances of winning than her. But okay, these are pretty unfair odds, I would say. If it's an equal position, we have both 1 minute, I think she will beat me. Yeah, but that doesn't really count. That's +0, right? Does he play bishop takes b3? Oh, okay. Interesting. I thought if we are going to take b3, we would need to take with a knight. But I guess he likes the knight. So he wants to play like knight e6, knight e4, perhaps. I don't really like that move, to be honest, because I think the bishop on e6 was quite a useful defensive piece. Now the knight's going to go to d5. But let's see. Maybe he's thinking of something. It's not losing for sure. It's just that this knight on d5 will be annoying to deal with. Okay, so she has played a takes b3 and she has played knight to e6, I believe. Yeah, so I think what is happening is that she really wants to play for a win, and she's kind of trying to figure out like how could I win this game, right? And maybe she's like, oh yeah, let's put a knight on d4, and then I don't know. At least a good thing here is that white cannot play c3 that easily. Put the knight on d4 very quickly, because then b3 would be hanging. But where do we want our queen? Yeah. So our queen could go to g5 also. Ah, yeah, that's also true, right? Our knight can also go to f4. I forgot about that. So our knight can also go to f4. So queen g5, knight f4, that's pretty powerful combo. So maybe that's what she thought. Now, that doesn't really synergize well with g6, because if the pawn was on g7, she could have played rook h6, rook g6 to help the attack. So we'll play g5 at that point. I could see black playing g5 at some point here. That's not out of the cards. So maybe she's thinking about like attacking on the king side with knight f4. Because if we are going to go like about knight d4, then at some point white can just kick us out with c3. So I think what she's thinking here is that if knight d5, I will go queen g5 and knight f4. Then the endgame shouldn't be... Actually, yeah, white cannot play this endgame. Or can... Maybe. Yeah, this was the quote. Thank you, Matthew. So 95 has been played. Let's see if queen g5. Because, yeah, queen g5, there's also the thing, though, that we can trade queens. So queen g5, queen takes g5, knight takes g5. We're attacking e4 and c2. Now, if white plays something like knight e3, we take on e4, there's f3, and then they take on d6. This endgames look very equal. Yeah, let's see where the queen goes. So the chess.com says this is a mistake because of queen g5. Well, it's really called a move that moves the evil from plus 0.8 to plus 0.3, a mistake. That's pretty high standards. Like, okay. That's like my average move for me. And 95 is a very logical move, though. What did the computer want? Rook d2. That does make sense, though. So instead of... So yeah, this is... I kind of hinted at that. Oh, she did play queen c5. Okay, that's good. That was the best move. I'm just worried a little bit because this endgame does look very drawish. After queen trade, followed by something like c3 or knight e3. 93 actually. 93 is the more concerning one, because we are threading d6. But if it was me with white, I would take this queen away immediately. Like, yeah, I'm not playing the queen. Let's go to the endgame. But okay, we do have to calculate, right? Because if we take the queen here as white, then both our c2 and e4 pawns are hanging. So we have to make sure that we're not losing a pawn. Yeah. So, what was I saying again? I forgot. God. Queen g5. Okay. I was saying something. Yeah. So I was saying, yeah, I did hint it a bit to that earlier that it's not the d5 square that is that weak. It's more the pawn on d6. So instead of knight d5, white could have kept the pressure on the d6 pawn and kind of double rooks on the d file instead. And there was also a move that was suggested by the ends. It was queen b6. Queen b6 is nice because that also defends b3. So if the black knight landed on d4, then we would have c3 and the knight would have to go back. So apparently the computer was really scared about white piling up on the d6 pawn. Yeah. I just realized that I could lose a pawn. Yeah, so you could play knight c3. But I think this is exactly what Anna-Maja wants. Like, knight c3, now black has the initiative, right? You can just defend the pawn with a king. And yeah. Why did I like knight e3 more, though? Can you do the same? I guess you can. How do you kick the knight, though? Somehow I like the knight on e3 much better because I can play c3. I mean, you guys know I like to play c3. But yeah, with the knight on c3, I feel like at the correct point we can play b5, b4 and kick that away maybe. Because that does defend both threats, but you have a single piece that is doing both defense on e4 and block of a c line. So b5, b4 becomes kind of extra valuable then, if I'm making any sense. So if I was black here, and I saw queen takes c5, takes c5, knight c3, I would be really happy because I would think that, okay, now is my time to outplay my opponent in the endgame. What about queen b6? That looks very scary for us, actually. Wonder what Anna wants to do against that. I guess we can castle. And we say, okay, if they take on d6, we take on c2. Also, another reason why knight d5 is maybe a mistake is that now c2 is hanging in general. Okay, welcome back. I'm sorry for the stream crash. Yeah, so I was trying to say, like, well, what about queen b6? So yeah, I think is that the c2 pawn is always hanging. So we could like castle and answer queen takes d6 with rook takes c2, and I think black is better even. So queen b6 would be a move, trying to keep the queens. The computer recommends queen b6, castles, and c4 or c3, which I mouse slipped, but it's also a good move. And for me, again, I would probably prefer c3 here. But apparently c3, rook c5. That looks very strange. Is black sacrificing the exchange, or what is the point? h4. This computer line is just random. Oh, the point is to trap the queen. That is the point. Okay, I would never see that. But okay. Yeah, so queen b6 leads to some interesting stuff. But the opponent is facing with a tough choice of trading queens or not, which always takes a while at least. So at least Anna has some time to calculate some stuff without her clock running out. That is good. But I think there's plenty of this game still to be played. Can we suck the exchange to go knight f4 somewhere? I'm afraid there is a bit too few pieces for that. Like, if you want to make a positional sacrifice with 2 pieces on the board, it's not the best idea. There might be a tactic with rook c5, and yeah, there might be a tactic with rook takes d5 and knight f4 at some point. But it would really have to, like, win instantly for us to... It is a tactical idea, especially because if white takes with the rook, knight f4 would also be attacking the rook and g2. So it is a tactical idea, but unless white blunders, I think it's not going to be feasible to do that. Is queen d2 an idea? I don't think so. I think I would trade queens as black then. And again play knight d4. Like if that doesn't blunder anything, let me check. If that doesn't blunder anything, yeah, I would just trade and go like knight d4. I'm attacking c2. Computer just ignores it. Wow. Why? Why can't I just take here? Oh, because I'm not castling. You have rook c1 at the end. Okay, interesting. So I have to play like what? Like short castle? Yeah. But okay, queen d2. I think we would trade ourselves and go like rook c6 or knight d4. I guess it is a move. I mean, everything that doesn't lose is a move. But okay, this is going to take, I think, some time. I'm going to leave for now, for a little bit, because I have to call my family. I promised them I'll call them at 7:30. So yeah, I'll leave for a bit and I might join later. So yeah, see you guys, and yeah, hope you enjoy the game, and I'll be back soon.